Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Behind me, 2014 Ford Escape. We're going to be replacing the front lower control arm. Let's get started. First thing we want to do is jack the vehicle up, put it on jack stands, and we'll pull our tire off. This car was in a little crunch. We just replaced the inner and outer tie rod, and you can see we still need to replace the lower control arm. The lower control arm has 3 connection points, one in the back, one in the front, and our ball joint. Let's go ahead and start with our ball joint. We can turn the wheel to get better access to our ball joint through bolt. It's an 18 mil nut on one side and a 15 mil on the other side. See if we can buzz this off. Easy. Put the nut back just a little. They give you a spot right on the end to tap, and we'll knock this through bolt through. It's starting to come. There we go. All the way out. Perfect. As tempting as it is, we don't want to put anything in this notch to wedge it open. There's a slot right here for a pry bar. Put our pry bar in, pull down. We give it a little whack. It's starting to separate. You can also use what's called a pickle fork if you need. Slide it right in there. We're replacing this ball joint, so it's okay if we damage the boot. Now let's pull off our front bolt. There's a little plate we have to remove first. The plate we have to remove is right here. There's 3 fasteners holding it on, 2 10mm bolts, and 1 13mm through bolt. 13 on this side, 15 on the nut side. With this plate, it looks like this 15mm nut is welded, so you don't have to worry about holding that. And this plate doesn't have to come all the way off. We just want to move it out of the way, revealing our front through bolt. Let's get that size. It's gonna be an 18mm. Buzz this off. Nice. Then we have one more attachment point, and that's in the back. The fasteners in the back are part of this round bushing. You can see our 2 through bolts here. Let me show you where the nuts are up top. You can pull our fender well back. Kind of hard to show you with the camera, but right there is one. It's part of our sway bar bushing. And then the other one is somewhere over there on the other side of our sway bar. I'm gonna hold these top nuts with a wrench and use an impact for the bottom. Our top nut is a 7/8. I didn't have a 7/8 wrench, but I was able to get a shallow 7/8 3/8 socket on there, at least for this back one. Hopefully it'll work on the front one too. There we go. Yeah, I think I was successful with the socket on this front one. A wrench definitely would probably be a little easier. That's all our fasteners. This should slide out. See what we can do. Got my pry bar. I'm gonna put it on this front, pull down. All right, and then in the back, see if I can pull this forward. There, the back is free. Go back to the front, push on it. There we go. Got it. All right, we'll line up our new one with our old one. Make sure everything is the same. Looking pretty good. Let's slap it in. Sorry, the angle's not the best. I think the problem we're gonna have with the back is the sway bar has to go underneath. So let me see how well I can pry that up to get underneath it. I think it's gonna be pretty tight. What I'm gonna do is jack up the other side so that that tire is off the ground as well. And that should relieve some of our tension on our sway bar. Let me do that real quick. So actually that helped out a lot. I think that's the trick. Have both sides jacked up at the same time, even if you're only just replacing one side. Just popping off this little retainer up here. There we go. Maybe I can move this even more out of the way. There, nice. That blocks you, but it opens up my way. So this is what I ultimately ended up doing. I took out the sway bar bushing and the sway bar bracket. Let me show you what that looks like. You can see we have plenty of clearance to slide that control arm through. Then we'll put our bushing and bracket back on. I think that's the trick, because I was really struggling having enough room back here, but this gives us everything. Hopefully you can see some of what I'm doing. Slide the front in first, just a little. Okay, then the back. There we go. Perfect. Tap on the front a little. Okay, we're almost lined up. I'm just gonna put our bolt in the front here. Our rear is pretty much lined up. I'm just gonna put our bushing back on. There, felt that fall right into place. All right, we got that back on. That was a ridiculous challenge. Having a good set of pry bars is definitely a must. But pulling off that bracket and pulling out that sway bar bushing really is the trick. And then getting it all back together is another trick. Now that sway bar, everything goes on and off easier if that sway bar is pushed all the way back towards the back of the vehicle as far as it can go. Another thing we can do if you feel up to it is remove the sway bar link either from up here or from down below. Looks like right here. And that can give it just a little more play and a little more movement. I got away with leaving the sway bar link on, but that might be something you might want to consider. So now let's start torquing everything down. Those back through bolts have lock nuts. If you are going to reuse the old lock nuts, what we'll want to do is put a little Loctite on them. And Loctite will serve the same purpose as this lock washer. And we don't want to tighten anything down completely until the very end. So just a little bit snug on these back bolts, a little bit snug on this front bolt, and then we'll put our ball joint in and torque everything last. Now on our front bolt, I did also put a little bit of Loctite on it. The manual doesn't say, so you probably don't have to. I'll leave that up to you. Just gonna snug this down a little. Now let's put our ball joint in. With our ball joint, it's gonna be the easiest with the wheel pointing straight ahead. Push down on our control arm, move our knuckle over. Before we do that, put our little metal shield on. There we go. Sometimes a little bit of jack pressure can help it fall in. Just a little. There we go. We'll wiggle it. Almost there. There, perfect. A new ball joint came with a new through bolt. Our jack out of the way. Our ball joint is torqued to 61 foot-pounds. Now we'll take a jack under our control arm, jack up our suspension to load it, then we'll torque the front and rear of our control arm. We have our jack pushing up on the control arm to where the control arm is almost horizontal. Still slouches just a little, but mostly horizontal. Looking closer at the manual, that's all we have to do for this front one. The rear, we don't have to jack anything up. Let me set you down. Our front bolt is 59 foot-pounds plus 360 degrees. That's 59. Now I'm going to take a marker, mark one edge of the bolt. It's going to mark the top, and we'll turn it 360 degrees. So our front is torqued. Now let's torque the back. Actually, before we head to the back, let's put on our little bracket. We'll swing this around. There we go. Our 10 millimeter bolts are 18 foot-pounds. And this is 35 foot-pounds. All right, now let's hop to the back. These are 85 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees. So we'll hold our top nut. All right. Then we'll mark it. Plus 90 degrees. That is pretty much all my muscles. All right, that's it. Let's throw the tire back on, take it for a test drive. Well, there you go. That's how you can replace the front control arm on a Ford Escape. I'm not gonna lie, this was a little bit of a challenge. Getting it out, not too bad. Getting it back in, that rear pivot point, that was the challenge. Taking that sway bar bushing off and the bracket completely out, that did the trick, but getting it all back together took a little bit of maneuvering. I'll have a link in the description for all the parts and tools used. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comment, post down below. See you on the next one.